Perhaps over the past couple of months you have heard all kinds of things about our parish and about the other three parishes on our side, Holy Rosary, St. Joan of Arc, and St. Bernard's. In the bulletin today there is a short letter or a message that I've written that explains a few things that have been going on and that will be continuing. Sparked by the constant low Mass attendance, a decrease in registered parishioners, continuing financial pressures, and debt owed to the diocese, and a lack of priests for all the parishes, Bishop McManus, having a predetermined vision of the future of the parishes of St. Christopher, Our Lady of the Rosary, St. Joan of Arc, and St. Bernard's, has called us into a collaborative. On Saturday, September 20th, members of the Pastoral Planning Committee and members of our parish, under the direction of Father Nick De Simone, called together these four wonderful parishes and their representatives for a morning of prayer, discussion, sharing, and gathering of information for the purpose of not only beginning this revitalization plan for our communities in the northern part of the city of Worcester, but also to begin to understand and find a way of, as I understand it, making it work according to Bishop McManus's predetermined conclusion. Father Slavinskis from St. Bernard said, "It is the beginning of a journey with listening, discernment, and gradual steps forward." Whatever kind of a journey it is in building up the church, I hope there will be more understanding and a lot of common sense, which I now find lacking. In the weeks to come, I will tell you more information through the bulletin, the website, and hopefully explain more at Mass. So I want to start at the beginning of all of this. In the spring, the beginning, somewhere around the beginning of Lent, the bishop said that Father Nichols from St. George's and I were to continue talks about a possible merger with St. Christopher's and St. George's. In the meantime, a team from Pastoral Planning Committee would be meeting with our parishioners and St. George's parishioners. Now, that was probably going to take some time right after Easter, but that didn't happen because of Lent. Of course, Holy Week, the ordination and the installation of Monsignor Richard Reedy as the Bishop of Norwich, and of course the death of Pope Francis on Easter Sunday night. About 2 weeks later or so, after the election of Pope Leo, I received a letter from Bishop McManus declaring his predetermined conclusion that the four parishes would become a collaborative revitalization of parishes. And the parishes would be staffed by one pastoral team of clergy, religious and professional lay staff. There may be one or several parishes at different sites, and all four parishes and or churches may or may not close. Parish representatives would be chosen and be responsible for making recommendations to the bishop regarding the new collaborative, considering different scenarios or possibilities, and staffing the mission of the church, facilities, adequate accessibility, room for growth, and financial stability. I asked about possible scenarios and how you could come up with a predetermined conclusion without first sitting down, discussing, gathering ideas, and looking at all kinds of possibilities, mergers, and scenarios of parishes before coming to any conclusion first, and then bringing all the people together and the possibilities of these things to parishioners and priests, and again, certainly us, for consideration. I have not received an answer. Besides all of this being a problem, there was no explanation of why or what happened to the pastoral planning teams that were supposed to meet with individual parishes. I have received no real answer to what happened with us and possible merger talks with St. George's. And none of the parishes has received any pastoral planning meeting or explanation before the official meetings began last Saturday. In fact, those meetings, again, were supposed to have taken place a long time ago for people to be able to ask questions and find out what exactly is going on. That also never happened. The priests met in a separate meeting a while ago, and issues, of course, were raised, including other possible mergers, but to no avail. Because if the diocese didn't do it the way the bishop predetermined and the mergers didn't work or happen, they would have to start all over again, and they didn't want to do that. That's what Father Nick DeSimone said. He also said that this was an experiment, that they didn't do this with some of the parishes in the past. I told him I was 74 years old. I don't want to be an experiment. But anyway, it's just like the gospel from a couple of Sundays ago, from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 14, where the king with 10,000 troops has to first take into consideration whether or not to march against the king with 20,000 troops. You can't just go ahead and do it without looking at the situation. And to me, what is happening with the bishop's predetermined collaborative issue, as far as I'm concerned, is the same thing. They didn't seem to look at everything first. If they did, maybe they're not telling us. Maybe they don't want to. But one other thing was that everyone in the diocese should absolutely know what's going on. Everyone should know through articles in the Free Press or published articles for parish bulletins about the lack of priests, the decline in people coming to Mass, and because of that, the steadily declining finances of the parish, which also probably put them in debt to the diocese. When Father Nick DeSimone and I talked back in the very beginning of August, face to face, he agreed with that 100%. As you can see, there have been no articles. There have been no notifications to people of the diocese about this situation that we are in, except this week's bulletin, Catholic Free Press, about the closing of Holy Spirit Parish in Gardner. I am stressed and tired about talking about it. And again, talking about this like I am today, well, maybe some people may not be very happy. But I have to say what it is that sparked this whole thing and where it came from, which also, I suppose, in a way, puts me in jeopardy because I am out there and now, of course, on camera saying exactly what has to be said. In closing, I don't have any answers. No one is giving me any real answers. I know that we, the people, are responsible, like the apostles and the disciples and those who came after them, to build up the church. You've heard me talk about that many different ways, many different times. And we are responsible. And I'm not opposed to having something done with parishes that need help, the parishes that may have to merge or whatever. That's fine. We can talk about that. But are the leaders being really all that responsible? Are they like the king in the gospel story? A collaborative is working together with trust and communication to achieve a shared goal. It's not saying, here's what we think the goal is, now you get it done. I've been through that kind of thing many, many years ago, where someone once said, you do this, you do that, you do something else, and I'm going out for a cup of coffee. And it doesn't work that way. That's not the way it's supposed to be done. One thing that I would please ask that you don't stop supporting us just because of what is going on. It may be difficult. It's going to be difficult. There's still a couple of months ahead of us as to where all these talks and things are going with these meetings that we're supposed to have once a month with the other parishes and some parishioners. So please, don't stop supporting us, because that's just going to give more reason to say, oh, well, things are getting worse and worse. You got to close now. I don't want to hear that kind of stuff. So please, don't do that. Above all things, please don't do that. As we go on and through this, let us just pray with chapter 7 from Wisdom. It says, I prayed and prudence was given me. I pleaded and the spirit of wisdom came to me. I asked your prayers for me, for all of us, parishioners and the priests and of all the parishes on this journey, that we all will be enlightened and strengthened by the Holy Spirit who fills the heart of the faithful and enkindles in them the fire of your love, which renews ultimately the face of the earth.